Now.
You're watching 5. From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin overseas tonight, where President Bush and the leaders of the 6 other richest nations in the world have been commiserating with one another about how their individual economic problems inhibit them from helping each other along the road to a speedier economic recovery. And as for helping the vastly poorer nations of the former Soviet Empire along the road to any economic well-being, as the rich nations put it, this will involve painful adjustment. President Bush said today a kind of mood of turmoil hung over all the talks in Germany. Our White House correspondent, Britt Hume, reports from Munich.
The Summit 7 ended their formal business today by having their hosts read a wordy statement of their good intentions on everything from helping the economies of the Third World to helping their own economies with policies to accelerate growth. Even that vague statement to push for growth was of particular importance to President Bush because growth means jobs and would allow him to say at least that the summit would help the U.S. economy. Despite the combined power and wealth of the nations gathered here, all these leaders were constrained by their own domestic concerns, and they seemed more a group of worried observers of a changing world than a group in charge of it. For a few minutes today, President Bush even lost control of his closing news conference as he was trying to explain how world economic growth would help the U.S.
Recovery is underway in the United States. Japan, Germany, and Italy have...
You're not giving us your voice.
Well, what's your question, sir?
I'm under 25, and I want to know...
Well, I can tell that. And what's your question?
We want to know why we're not taken seriously. We're an environmental group.
Well, maybe you're rude. People don't take rude people seriously.
The president later did answer the man's question about nuclear power by saying he was for it. That concluded, Mr. Bush was quick to insist that the U.S.'s standing here and in the world generally has not changed.
I think we are the sole remaining superpower. And that's when you consider economic and military and everything else. And I think others see it that way. But that doesn't mean that the way you lead is to dictate. That's not the way you try to do it.
Indeed not, and the rest of the day was proof of that as the Summit 7 became 8, to receive the leader on whose success, more than their own, the world's immediate future may depend. Mr. Bush and his friends keep saying there's not enough money in the world to save the Russian economy, that they can only help Russia help herself. But help is what Boris Yeltsin came for. And the 7 leaders told him they support, for example, granting Yeltsin a period of relief from interest payments on Russia's immense foreign debt. Technically, the Summit 7 can't grant that relief, but their endorsement makes it likely it will happen. The 7 can then watch and hope it will help. Britt Hume, ABC News, Munich.
Today, Mr. Bush called Mr. Yeltsin a very courageous leader. He is trying, said the president, against some pretty tough odds, to turn a communist system into a market economy. The old rules are not so difficult to change. It's the old habits which are something else. ABC's John Donovan, for example, has been on a farm just 40 miles from Moscow.
Sometimes Yuri Micatin, one of Russia's pioneer private farmers, wonders why he even tries. It's bad enough that animal feed is so expensive, that the bank is charging 23% interest for his agricultural loan, that the officials distributing land will not lease him the few extra acres he thinks he needs to break even. But on top of all else, there are the neighbors, resenting every step Yuri takes toward being better off than they are. That's Valentina from the cottage next door, complaining about Yuri's chickens running on her side of the fence, then shouting, "Why do they give you 12 acres when I was born here and I have to live on my tiny piece of land?" The answer is that Yuri and his wife Olga applied for the land under new laws that let Russians farm privately on state property. But starting with the application process, which took months, they say everything has been a struggle, from buying supplies to selling what they produce.
People can't afford to buy our milk. It's too expensive for them. But if we sell cheaper, then we're not making any money.
And there is no place where we could, for instance, rent equipment. There are no services at all like that for farmers.
We have a whole generation of people trained to sit around and wait to be told what to do.
So far, more than 120,000 Russians have ventured into private farming, most of them since January of this year. But many more than that are sticking with their jobs on the government-owned farms. On those big state farms, everyone is an employee. They get apartments, daycare for their children, paid time off. Benefits, says the farm's director, that few want to give up for the risks of going private.
To be private farmers, they know they'd have to work twice as hard as they do now.
Of the 600 workers on this state farm, only one has left to start his own. Yuri Micatin, still willing to put up with the hard work, the uncertainty, and the envy of his neighbors. I want, he says, to be my own master. That is why Yuri Micatin keeps on trying. John Donovan, ABC News, Moscow.
President Bush has gone from one summit to another. He's now arrived in the Finnish capital, Helsinki, for a conference on security and cooperation in Europe. The CSCE was founded 17 years ago at the height of the Cold War as a means of keeping antagonism under control across all of Europe. There's actually more fighting in Europe today than there was then. Mr. Bush is going to meet tomorrow with the president of Bosnia, whose country is under such severe attack by Serbian forces. In a moment, enthusiastic Democrats for Ross Perot. On the American agenda tonight, how a public service jobs program from the Great Depression might apply to the riot areas of Los Angeles today. And finally, modern-day horse thieves, a menace in the West.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Lexus Luxury Automobiles.
This vehicle has a number of features that make it an extremely secure place to put money. So does this one. The Lexus LS400. With the highest retained value in its class, it's like money in the bank.
Before you freeze, remember this rule of thumb. Get Ziploc brand freezer bags with the gripper zipper. Tough, tiny teeth you can feel gripping, so you know freshness is locked in, freezer burns out. Do like me. Protect your ears. There's only one Ziploc.
If your doctor has recommended Metamucil and you like the results, but you don't like those glasses of thick liquid, change to FiberCon. Get the same fiber action in easy-to-swallow tablets. Get doctor-recommended FiberCon.
Presidential politics today, for those of you who follow these particular matters very carefully, Governor Clinton still has not chosen a running mate. He said today, in fact, he's not offered the job to anyone, has not yet made up his mind. The conventional wisdom still has Albert Gore of Tennessee, the front-runner. The man who heads Mr. Clinton's vice presidential search committee, Warren Christopher, arrived in Tennessee today to talk to Senator Gore. We're also told that Senator Bob Kerrey is not out of the picture either. Now to Ross Perot. According to the latest ABC News poll, Mr. Perot is deriving the bulk of his support from people who describe themselves as Republicans or independents. There are, however, a good number of Democratic Party activists who were defecting to Mr. Perot. And here's ABC's Jim Wooten.
I have a long career as an active Democrat.
Matt Lifflander, former finance chairman for New York State Democrats and lifelong party stalwart. But in this election year, he represents a potentially serious problem for Governor Clinton. He's backing Ross Perot.
I was a very strong supporter of Harry Truman, and I think that Ross Perot is the same kind of person. He reminds me of Harry Truman in the age of television, and I'm very excited about that.
And a world away from Manhattan, in the small-town beauty of New England, Jerry Diamond is also excited. He's a former Democratic Attorney General of Vermont. Now, with his wife Candy, he runs Perot's campaign in Vermont.
It was painful. It was a difficult decision.
The Diamonds were for Paul Tsongas first. Then both chose Perot for the very same reason.
What's in it for me is possibly hope.
And so it's really hope that he brings, that he can be effective because he will do things differently.
The Diamonds worried that their old friends in the party would shun them. But at this recent fundraiser for Vermont Governor Howard Dean, a Democrat, they found that many of them were also former Tsongas supporters, now much more impressed with Perot's approach to the country's economic problems than with Clinton's.
Well, keep up the good work. All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks very much.
Talk about Perot. I'm not
questions about him. Good luck with the campaign.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
The governor will certainly not endorse Perot, but he's taking Diamond's decision in all good humor.
You'll come around eventually on the presidential race, right?
I don't think so. Or you may. Or you may.
Well, maybe not the governor, but Diamond believes other Vermonters may. Polls show Perot is drawing about a quarter of his support now from Democrats like the Diamonds, and it's growing.
Work hard.
Work hard? Oh, that's what I wanted to hear. See, another Democrat.
Democrats have been losing presidential elections because a lot of Democrats have been voting for Republicans. That may not happen this year, but Governor Clinton's problem is they may not vote for him either. Jim Wooten, ABC News, Montpelier, Vermont.
In other news today, a federal appeals court panel has told the Environmental Protection Agency it must take at least 4 pesticides off the market. They have been turning up in small amounts in some of the food we eat for years. They have been tolerated until now. Here's ABC's Barry Serafin.
Today's ruling bans the use of cancer-causing pesticides that concentrate in processed foods, such as bread and cereals and tomato products. A federal law banning such chemicals has been on the books for 34 years, but the government has allowed traces of the pesticides in food in amounts that it considered to be of small risk. The environmental and labor groups which took the EPA to court contend that the risk accumulates because of the wide range of food products and chemicals. Today's ruling focused on only 4 cancer-causing pesticides, but it could affect the use of more than 60. Environmentalists call the court's decision a major public health victory, but the farm and food industries may try to go around the EPA by asking Congress to allow continued use of the pesticides. Barry Serafin, ABC News, Washington.
Some health news. A new study finds that feeding pre-teenage children extra calcium helps them grow thicker and stronger bones, which may help them avoid fractures later in life. And the first major study of the long-term effects of heart bypass surgery show that the benefits of bypass surgery begin to fade within 5 years and disappear completely after 11 years. And a possible explanation today, common sense one maybe, as to why so many people get infections while they are in the hospital. A study done in the intensive care unit at the University of Iowa Hospital found that 3 out of 5 doctors and nurses did not wash their hands before examining their patients. We'll be back in just a moment.
So you just got a cash advance, did you? Too bad you used an ordinary credit card. Because you could be carrying some very heavy interest charges. Why not carry the Discover card? Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll forget the interest. Which means our money comes with no strings attached. It pays to Discover.
To get rid of her gray, my wife can spend 40 minutes. But I discovered this 5-minute hair coloring.
The revolutionary discovery called Just for Men from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men and in 5 minutes shampoo out.
Gray is blended away. The look of my natural color is back in 5 minutes. That was me, and it won't fade or wash out.
My hair takes forever, but you look great in just 5 minutes.
The look of your natural color in just 5 minutes with Just for Men.
The new Jeep. The world's only 4x4 with a standard driver's side airbag.
In Los Angeles for the last several days, there has been an angry and loud but essentially peaceful protest. In fact, it's been going on for 18 days outside City Hall. The demonstrators are Korean Americans who lost millions of dollars when their businesses were destroyed in the Los Angeles riots. Many of them blame the city. And as ABC's Brian Rooney reports tonight, they want reimbursement.
The Korean Americans at first said the city allowed the riot to get out of control. Now they say government has not done enough to help the victims. They want more than just low-interest loans from relief agencies. They demand cash compensation for their losses in the riots.
A lot of Korean Americans, they immigrated to this country
with the solid belief that the government and politicians and police, everybody could be trusted to come to their aid when they needed it.
As they weave their way through a maze of agencies, the Koreans realize nothing will put things back the way they were. This, for instance, is all that is left of a swap meet business and the $100,000 investment of its owner.
Where's my money for 20 years? I saved it. I've been working for 10 years, 10 hours to about 15 hours a day.
Some people assume that what the Koreans built from nothing in this city, they can build again. But it is not that easy. The Koreans have a private loan system called Kie, in which a group of investors loans money to a businessman who might not qualify for a bank loan. Many of the Kies went bankrupt after the riots, and there's little money to start new ones. Both borrowers and lenders suffered. The Koreans estimate that 40% of their businesses were damaged or destroyed.
Well, Kie will not work for a while because we have no source of income.
After 3 weeks of demonstrations, the Koreans were invited to meet the mayor, who offered no quick fix.
There is no provision, no arrangement where we can make reparations.
The Koreans are talking about a giant liability suit against the city, but in the short term, they will continue to make themselves heard. Brian Rooney, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Another big oil company is laying off workers. Amoco says it will eliminate 8,500 jobs by the end of next year. That is 15% of its workforce. Yesterday, it was Mobil that announced layoffs, 2,000 jobs. Analysts say there's so much oil on the world market, there has been little need for new exploration and all the jobs that go with it. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials lost nearly 2 points today to close at 32.93, and the trading was heavy. In France, after paralyzing the nation's traffic system for 10 days, thousands of truck drivers have given up and ended their blockade of the country's major highways. Riot police arrested many other truckers who refused to get off the road. The government has agreed to discuss guaranteeing truckers alternate jobs if they lose their licenses as a result of tough new traffic laws. When we come back, the American Agenda.
Delicious. I'm surprised.
I love this cereal. These people are eating a high-fiber cereal, and they love the taste. Surprised? I'm not, because they're eating fruit and fiber. And as a nutritionist, I know fruit and fiber has high-fiber bran flakes, and it's the only one with plump raisins, chewy dates, walnuts, and crunchy oat clusters for a delicious taste.
Surprisingly delicious.
Post fruit and fiber cereal. Try it for the fiber. Love it for the taste.
See my granddaughter. Thank you, Jesus. Think about your daydreams, what you would do if you won $1 million out of the blue. Miracles can happen for you. Publishers Clearinghouse, the house where dreams come true.
Of all the important safety features we put in the new Camry, some may seem a bit extravagant.
Stronger body construction, child protector rear door locks, rear seat headrests, adjustable front seatbelt anchors, standard driver's side airbag, available anti-lock brakes.
But when it came to safety, we didn't ask what it costs. We asked what it could save. The all-new 1992 Toyota Camry. We just couldn't leave well enough alone.
Listen, athlete's foot fungus grows beneath the surface of your skin. To cure it, you've got to get down to the root of the problem. You need Micatin.
Micatin penetrates the surface of your skin with miconazole to cure athlete's foot where it grows. Step up to the mic. Micatin. Gas pressure means pain and bloating. And the way doctors see it, your best choice for relief is Mylanta gas. It has the best medicine for gas.
On the American Agenda tonight, we're going back to South Central Los Angeles. Might a government program from the Great Depression of the 1930s be the right program for the 1990s? On the agenda last night, we pointed out there is serious talk in the nation of rejuvenating some of the programs which gave energy and hope and, most importantly, jobs to the millions of people who were suffering the most during the Depression. Tonight, how those programs might be applied to the area that has recently come to symbolize the lack of hope and opportunity among today's disenfranchised. South Central LA. Our agenda reporter is Ken Kashiwahara.
A typical day in the South Central Los Angeles welfare office. 1 out of 4 families in this community survives on government handouts. Nearly half the children live in poverty. The unemployment rate is twice the national average.
Everybody don't just want a free check, you know. I don't want a free check.
If they can sit back behind the desk and provide a check for people that's sitting on their butt, why not provide a job?
That's what a program that worked in the 1930s would do, replace welfare checks with public service jobs created and guaranteed by the federal government. In the 30s, the WPA, Works Progress Administration, and the Civilian Conservation Corps took millions of people off relief rolls and put them to work building roads and bridges and schools. Today, a recycled version of those programs would put welfare recipients and the unemployed to work rebuilding their own decaying communities.
Deteriorated, dilapidated housing, poor services in the form of garbage pickup, and the like.
UCLA professor James Johnson, who specializes in urban problems, finds work to be done on virtually every street.
We need to upgrade the recreation activities on the campuses of our schools. Baseball down, I mean, you can't call this a baseball down. There's no grass here. There are weeds out here, but no.
Abandoned buildings need to be rebuilt or torn down. Alleyways need paving. Crumbling curbs and streets need repairing. But many of the inner city poor have never had a real job and have no job skills. They feel isolated and abandoned. So could the solution of the 1930s work today? In this community, similar small-scale efforts provide some clues. In the heart of South Central, former gang member Ivan Paxton is being paid by the federal government to help renovate the public housing project where he lives. It is the kind of program supporters of a WPA-style solution want to expand nationwide.
Is this better than collecting a welfare check?
Oh, man, it's 500,000 million times better.
Why?
It makes you feel like you are somebody. Up.
The California Conservation Corps, a descendant of the original Civilian Conservation Corps, is aimed at young people. Today's highly successful CCC has maintained the military-style discipline, added mandatory high school classes, and pays jobless men and women minimum wage for public service work. Tamiko Watkins chose the Conservation Corps over welfare.
What do you hope to get out of this job?
A better job. To be honest, a better job.
How do you think it's going to help you do that?
Keep working and doing what I'm doing and coming to work every day.
Not everyone makes it through the rigorous program, but many employers say those who do are reliable workers. Supporters say that's exactly what a 1930s-style program would do. Teach welfare recipients and the hardcore unemployed job skills and the work ethic to prepare them for the private sector. Under one proposal, the government would pay welfare recipients slightly more for working than the benefits they now receive to do nothing. But some community leaders doubt jobs alone are the answer.
Many of them are needy. They're not capable of working because of disabilities, dependency on drugs, alcohol, other kinds of problems.
Others are skeptical of government programs.
It's a temporary solution where you'll throw a lot of money in and it may work for a year, it may work for 2 years, but you're still not addressing the problem.
As it was in the 1930s, providing low-paying public service jobs would be somewhat more expensive than providing welfare. But those who support the solution of the past believe jobs would be the foundation for the future to start rebuilding the inner cities and the lives of those who live there. Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News, Los Angeles.
When we come back, our final report, greed in Texas.
Ace Best Buys are easy to find. They're great values like these.
This Garrity Waterproof Tough Light Maxi Mini Combo is only $8.77, and the Rubbermaid 2-gallon beverage cooler is just $8.99.
Ace Best Buys. Another reason Ace is the place for you.
Suddenly, vitamins are all over the news.
And 2 out of 3 adults don't get all that's recommended in their diets.
The good news is Total has 100% of 10 essential vitamins.
With all the vitamin news, I'm eating Total.
Red Lobster's brought it back by popular demand. Our full pound of shrimp platter returns. Red Lobster knows you just can't get, enough shrimp. 10 grilled shrimp, 15 butterfly, 11 scampi. A full pound of our biggest and best shrimp. For a limited time, all this shrimp is back. There's so much. You may need a doggy bag.
Red Lobster for the seafood lover in you.
Tonight on Nightline, imagine losing your privacy, your dignity, your freedom. It happens inside a woman's prison, and we see it through inmates' eyes tonight.
Finally from us this evening, a report about an old and not at all honorable tradition in the West, stealing horses. A new generation of horse thieves is preying on Western ranches, and the motive is the same now as it was a century ago, profit. Here's ABC's Al Dale.
Tammy Duffer's horse, Patches, was stolen out of this pasture near Dallas last February.
Every time I'd say, Patches, she'd turn around and look at me, you know, and I miss that. I miss it a lot.
She and her boyfriend Kevin later learned that the gentle mare was sold to a slaughterhouse and butchered within hours. The plant Patches was taken to is one of 4 in Texas licensed to slaughter horses for human consumption. They pay up to 70 cents a pound, $700 for a 1,000-pound horse. Most of the meat is shipped overseas, more than 140 million pounds last year. Bought by Europeans and Asians who have included horse meat in their diets for generations.
No one knows how many stolen horses wind up in slaughterhouses, but the price of horse meat has doubled over the past 5 years, making horse rustling a lucrative business.
Warren Wilson is now in jail for stealing 50 horses. He says horses are easy to steal and easy to turn into cash at auctions, no questions asked.
We'd steal them on a Friday night, sell them on Saturday night, and I'd cash a check Monday morning.
These 2 horses had been stolen from Charlie Painter's friends. He rescued them from a slaughterhouse trailer just after they had been sold at auction. Since then, searching auctions has become his passion. Sort of a one-man posse, he haunts sale barns, trying to find stolen horses before they are killed. So far, he says he has recovered 19. Lawman Doyce Cook says most stolen horses are never recovered because sales records are not required and horses are hard to identify.
The man calls and says he has a paint horse missing. I don't have any idea what that horse is, and even if I look right at that horse at a sale barn, you know, I can't take it away from somebody till I know that it's a stolen horse.
So more and more worried horse owners are having their animals branded. The mark helps trace a horse, but does not solve the problem. Rancher Paul Riggs says maybe a taste of the Old West would work.
Yes, sir. We used to hang them in this part of the country.
Those days are gone, but as long as horse meat is in demand, horse rustling is one relic of the Old West that dies hard. Al Dale, ABC News, Forney, Texas.
And that's our report on World News tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Wednesday on Civil Wars.
Your mother and I have decided to get a divorce.
A case too close to home.
Your father hasn't touched me since he had his operation 3 years ago.
Do you know how long it's been since your mother and I have had sex?
Civil Wars Wednesday.
Watch your ash.
I'm aware of my ash. My ash is fine.
Tonight at 5 and 10, watch Channel 5 News for Murphy's Law, brought to you by Bonanza, where the extras don't cost extra.
Marla's House of Larger Fashion semi-annual clearance sale is now in progress. You'll save up to 40% on spring and summer fashions by Alfred Dunner, Lady Graff, Lee, Chick, Don Kenny, Nancy Frock, and more. Marla's offers one of the largest selection of fine fashions in Iowa for the fuller-figured woman. One-stop shopping for your entire wardrobe, and now at tremendous savings during Marla's House of Larger Fashion semi-annual clearance sale. Marla's in downtown Boone. Open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 to 5, Thursday nights till 8.
I was out of a job. Now I've got a whole new career.
As a single parent, I needed a better job fast.
Career training gave me the skills to get a great job.
They went to the National Education Center, and so can you. If you'd like a career in electronics, pick up the phone and call NEC for this brochure. Training's not